Hi guys, and welcome to Brooker Ceramics. This week I've been getting on the Wolverine and Deadpool hype, getting really excited about the new movie that's coming out. So what I've tried to do is challenge myself on week 29, I think it is, of learning how to throw on a potter's wheel, is creating a Deadpool versus Wolverine mug. I've also created lots of other mini versions of this mug too, which I'll be releasing throughout my YouTube stories over the next couple of weeks. So if you want to see more of these mugs with different styles and different approaches, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss when the next one's coming out. So this week I'll be looking to make this mug here, and I'll be walking you through the process. It's got the Wolverine versus Deadpool logo on the front. It's got some really cool Deadpool katanas, swords on the back, and then the kind of Wolverine eye mask as the handle itself. So I'll walk you through all the processes from throwing and coating and centering the clay, creating the ceramic mug vessel, and then how I've dried it out over the few days, and then how I kind of created the stencils for this work and attached it to the mug body itself. So I'm going to put this down because it's still drying and I don't want it to start cracking. And we're going to go over to the workbench, and I'll talk you through how I started designing this piece itself. So we're at my workbench now, and you can see here I've done a few different designs and styles that I might want to replicate over the next few days. This is the style here that I'll be doing in this video. But I'm also making some shorts for this Deadpool one here, as well as a Wolverine one. So make sure you have a look at my shorts. So on the side here, I've already worked out the mug. So it's going to be 8 centimeters wide by 10 centimeters tall. The logo will be 5 centimeters and the sword will be 7. So it will sit centrally like this on the mug. Like that, and then there'll be that kind of Wolverine handle on the side there, and then on the back there'll be his katanas sticking out. So if we flip the mug round, you'll have the katanas kind of sticking out like this. And then they'll go onto the back, and I want to make them probably quite short because it will look a bit weird going all the way down, and almost like they're blended, so they kind of go into the mug body itself. So that's the rough designs and the styles. For this I'll be using 500 grams of stoneware clay to throw the mug body itself, and I think it took me around 4 days in total with all the drying process to make. So if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. So I begin weighing out my clay. For this I'll be using 500 grams of stoneware clay, and that'll help me form the mug body itself. I'll be making 3 mugs this week, so I'm looking at around 1500 grams to allow me to make the 3 bodies. Next, I'll begin to wedge the clay together, and this will help me remove any of those air bubbles that have been trapped inside the clay itself. Wedging is still a new process for me, so I'm learning as I go, but it's really important to make sure that you've got no air bubbles inside of the clay body itself before you throw. And as you can see here, cross section, it's all nice and clear. A bit of grit in there from recycling, but it's all good. Then I'm going to weigh out the clay. As mentioned, want to get as close as I can to 500 grams. Doesn't matter if I'm a little bit over, as I'll probably lose a little bit of it during the throwing process. So now that I've got my clay all weighed out, I want to start making the body of the mug itself. This project will span over multiple days because I'll have to wait for the body to dry before I can attach the handle and any other additional pieces to the base of the mug itself. So I'll probably throw the mug now, let it dry out leather hard over a couple of days, and then come back and add all the details like the handle and any of the pieces that make this mug unique. So I'm going to zoom you in and we're going to take a look at coning and centering. I'll open up the clay and then begin to pinch the walls into that vessel form. I'm looking for something that's around 10 centimeters high with an opening of around 8 centimeters. So I have to keep my ruler on hand so that I can measure it to make sure that it's all within the correct measurements. So let's zoom you in and take a look at that now. This was probably the most complex clay project that I've ever attempted. So if you guys want to see more of this, please let me know by engaging with the video. I think it took me in total about 3 or 4 days, so quite a lot of time and investment, but I'm really pleased with the final look and feel of the mug itself. So I begin, like with any project, coning and centering the clay, and this is to make sure that all the clay particles are facing in the same direction and that the clay is spinning nice and centrally on the wheel. I also, just using my finger, create a slight indent. This helps slick the clay ball itself to the wheel, but also then allows me to lift from it a bit easier later on and reducing the clay waste. And as you can see, I run my finger over and it's nice and smooth. Next, I want to open up the clay, and I do this by pressing my thumb deep into the clay. I'm looking for about 1 inch from the bottom itself. I use the little pin to determine how far I am, and if I'm far enough, I'll begin opening it like you can see here, or push down a bit more to begin push the clay down more into the body. Now I'm compressing the base, and this just ensures that the clay is nice and firm and strong at the bottom. I did notice there was a slight wobbling from all the compressing, so I'm just correcting for that with my hands now. Once I'm happy with that, it's then time to start pinching the clay and lifting it up into the mug shape. I'm trying to create those confident pulls and only pulling it a couple of times. This ensures that the clay body itself doesn't get too wet or weak. And also it's just good practice. So you can see here I've pulled it a couple of times now and we're almost at the desired height. I'll then come in with my ruler and just check the dimensions. For these mugs, I wanted to be as consistent as I could, so I spent a lot of time making sure they're the right height as well as the opening. So 10 centimeters high and 8 centimeters opening. I'll then come in with a wooden kidney and pressing from the inside of the mug, pushing the walls out onto the kidney edge itself. I'll then make sure that the mugs are nice and vertical, but it also removes any excess slip. Finally, using my hands like so, I'll pinch the rim and then use a wet sponge to remove any excess slip here. Using a fettle, I'll remove any of the excess from inside of the clay vessel, and this will just help it to dry out a little bit more consistently. Tidying up the base with this wooden tool, I'll just trim off the skirt. And it's really important that I then set this aside for a few days to dry out really slowly. Now that I've got the basic mug shape roughed in, what I want to do is now just leave this to dry for a few days to go leather hard. I've got a special little Tupperware box container thing just by my wheel here that I often put vessels like this in, and it will just allow it to dry out really slowly and really evenly over the next few days. So I'll put this aside and we'll come back in a day or so and progress with the next step. So next I want to begin putting in some of those details on the drawing, so the symbol itself and some of the swords that are going to be on the back. What I want to do is I've wedged out my clay and it's now removed all of the air bubbles and pockets within it. So what I'm going to do is roll it flat so that I can then cut into the clay when it's a bit leather hard. So I'm going to roll it out nice and flat into a sheet and then leave it overnight and come back tomorrow and begin cutting it up and creating those initial shapes. So I'm going to now lay out a sheet of clay. I'm rolling this on top of my homemade plasterboard. I've made a video for that in my tutorial playlist if you want to take a look. And I'm using the books to create that even thickness. I've then trimmed off all the excess and I'll set it aside for a couple of hours to dry out a little bit. Whilst I'm waiting for that to dry, I want to create some templates for the pieces that I'm going to attach to the mug body itself. I really enjoyed creating these templates. I got to use Photoshop and Illustrator, and I really enjoy using those software and thinking about all the different layers I would need to construct this project. So for this icon here, there's two basic layers, the foundation and then the top piece. And for the Deadpool katana, there's 3 layers. So I've created a layer for the handle, and then also for the scabbard, I think it's called, the flat bit that you can see I'm making there. And then I'll create a slight back piece as well, and this will allow me to attach the sword a bit more effectively to the mug body itself. So you can see the 3 pieces there. And then I just print them off, and then I'll cut them out and use them to overlay on top of the clay itself. So next I want to start pulling the handle, and for this I've created a template that I'm going to pull the clay down and then lay it out in the shape so that I create this kind of Wolverine mask style handle for you to hold on to. So first I'll need to pull the clay down, I'll lay it out into strips, let it go slightly hard, and I'll have to cut it down this line here and then attach them as 2 separate pieces. So I'll give that a go now. So for this you want to make sure that you've got a nice tacky ball of clay. It helps if you have it in like a cone shape because you're going to be pulling down like that. And throughout the process you need to make sure that your hands are wet so that you're not creating too much friction, and you can pull that clay down nicely. So let's have a go. So you can see now it's starting to form the handle shape. What I'm doing is I'm slightly pinching it, holding it at equal thicknesses from top to bottom, and the handle will slowly start to elongate. What I want to do at the bottom is, rather than pinch it, is just continue my hand off and down off it, or you end up with a ball of clay at the bottom there. So continue to do this. For this handle, I'm looking for probably around that kind of thickness. I want the handle to be slightly fatter rather than round, so I'm going to apply now more pressure to one side so you can see it's starting to get a bit flat. There we go. So somewhere around there, I'm going to pinch it off and then lay it down for a couple of hours to dry nice and leather hard. So a couple of days have passed now, and I've been slowly drying out this ceramic mug base, and it's now perfectly leather hard and ready to be trimmed. Off camera, I've also created a chuck, which you can see here, and this is also now leather hard as well. I've just given it a quick trim to make sure that when it's on the wheel, it's spinning nice and centrally. And what I want to do is place my mug on top, play around with it so that it spins nice and centrally, and then I can come in and trim it all up. So I'm going to zoom you in and we're going to take a look at that now. So now I'm going to be trimming the mug body on the chuck itself. It's really important that this spins nice and centrally, but also then I'm applying downward pressure to ensure that the mug stays on the chuck itself. I'm just flattening out the base, not removing too much at this stage, and then I'll focus on the walls first. So once I've got a base that's relatively flat, I'm going to bevel in the edge slightly and then just run it down the edge of the wall, removing any excess clay so that it's nice and cylindrical. I'll then burnish the wall of the mug with this metal kidney before coming in and cutting in the feet itself. These mugs don't have too deep a base, so I'm just very mindful about removing too much material at this stage. I'll then come in with a right angle tool like this and just bracing the side. I'll create a nice clean edge between where the rim starts and where the base of the mug begins. And of course, making sure to sign it and date it so I know when I made this mug and can come back to it later. Finally, before I set it aside to dry a bit more, I just want to make sure that I make the rim nice and clean and it's flat, and also the inside is relatively clean too. So now that I've got my basic mug body formed and it's nice and leather hard, it's time to start attaching all the fancy bits to it really. So I'm going to be making the handle, but also attaching some Deadpool and some Wolverine logos and objects to it to make it look a bit more like a Wolverine Deadpool mug. So we'll go over to my workstation now and begin cutting it up. This was quite a new process for me, laying out the clay, making it leather hard, then creating those stencils. So let's see how we get on with it. It's very much a test one for me now. So let's take a look now. So I've got my leather hard clay and my stencils here. So what I want to do is press it down onto the clay and then draw around it and basically cut them out. I've also got some tools over here. So I've got a bit of slip, a fettle, just a sponge and some other kind of tools up here. So I'll be using all of those to attach the stencil parts that I cut out to the mug itself. So I can see the paper isn't really sticking to the clay, so I just want to give it a little wet down. This should allow me to then stick the paper to it like that. I'm going to come in with this little pin and just gently draw around the stencil. Like that, and now I can cut that out and that can be one of the things that I can attach to the mug itself. So I'm going to do it for all the pieces, just draw around them, cut them all out, and then we'll come back and take a look at that now. So now that I've cut out all the different pieces, it's now time to start kind of fixing them all together to create the final shape. What I'll probably have to do is score them and stick them down with slip, and then do a little bit of blending as well because they're a little bit too pronounced at this stage. So I'm going to show you how I do that with one of the swords, and then we'll come back after I've done the other pieces and take a look at the progress. So relatively simple process. I'm just going to come in and trim up all the edges making it look a little bit more neater. There'll be an opportunity once I've glued them all together with slip to do that final edit and final kind of cleanup. But for now, I just want to come in and just give the shapes a little bit of a tidy up. So now that I've got all the shapes roughed in, I want to just line them all up, make sure they fit. It all looks good. This will kind of sit on the lip of the mug like that, which hopefully will also hold it in place a little bit better. So I want to just score these up on both sides and then get them stuck together. So let's start with the back side of the sword. You're just creating these lines like this. And then just using a little bit of slip, paste it on one side, paste it on the other. And then just place them together like that. Press them down, get rid of any air bubbles. And now for the sides, I'm just going to come in and reduce them down and smooth them off a little bit so that you can't see the joins. Once I've got them in like that, I just want to come in with the fettle and work in these joints here that I can't get to. And then on the sponge, just to tidy it all up. Next, I'm going to add the hilt on there like that. So the exact same process. Just give it all a really good score. And then with the slip, just come in and apply some slip like that quite generously. And same on this side. And then just apply it on, same as with the back, and just want to give it a good squeeze. Make sure that we've got some really good contact there and that we've got rid of any air bubbles. And then I want to come in with the fettle and just tidy that up. And there's the sword hilt. So I'm going to repeat the process for all the other pieces, and we're going to come back and then I'll come in and do the details later. Now I've got all the pieces made out, ready to be attached to the mug body. I'm just waiting for the glue that's joining this joint here to dry a little bit more, and then I'll attach it to the mug body itself. So I'll record some of it and we'll take a look at the finished piece. So here's the final piece. If you've made it this far in the video, you're part of the Super Secret Club. So thank you for watching all the way to the end. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and comment Super Secret Club. See you in the next one.